Hi, this is Dr. Stephanie Wautier, and I'm the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. This is not a health how-to, but rather a conversation with some amazing people I've had the pleasure of being with on my journey of life. Think of it more like Tuesdays with Maury, a fireside chat, or chicken soup for the soul. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy this conversation with a chiropractor. Faye, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
You are so welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. People around Marquette know you for what you do now and what you've done recently, but I want to take us back to you being a little girl in Marquette, growing up, and eventually we're going to talk about how you got to California, but were you involved in musical theater as a child?
Well, I love that. First of all, we're talking about my favorite subject, me. And what's funny is because that is a great lead into a young person. So to answer your question, as a young person, I was a child of divorce. And my parents divorced when I was 5. And like most children, that was very difficult for me. From a young age, though, I was very much of a child that was very big and acting out.
Like a big personality.
I mean, I was putting on shows for the neighborhood, probably at 7 years old, and making up my own songs, my own characters. And we even had a sun porch that they would come over, and my sister would be a little second role in it. And
But you were always the director?
Of course. So I remember, this is charming, 3rd grade, Sandy Knoll Elementary School. And in 3rd grade, our music teacher or music class would be like once a week. Actually, I remember it was my actual teacher. Maybe we didn't have somebody yet that would come through. Anyway, Mrs. Sullivan. And we'd be singing, and I'll never forget, she stopped at my desk. Oh, yeah. And she just was standing there, and I liked her a lot, so I was okay with that. But at the same time, I thought, oh. She stopped the entire class, and she said, "Class, I'd like you to listen to Faye right now." And she said, "Faye, will you?" And I was like, well, okay.
Wow.
And that's when I started my first experiences at being a star.
In 3rd grade?
In 3rd grade. And that stuck. So I was just so lucky. And because that was a great escape for a tortured child. I went through the whole missing daddy who called me pretty girl. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, wicked stepmother.
Wow.
And that was tough on her. As I got older, I understood her more, but it was just because she inherited a ton of kids that she didn't necessarily want. Anyway, so that really was a good vehicle for me.
So did you go between your mom's home and your dad's home after the divorce?
Yep. What was interesting is this was back in the 60s in Little Marquette, Michigan. And my dad, who had been a policeman, knew the judge and knew the this and knew the that. And he got a little extra special treatment. And that was back in the day when men necessarily didn't get, like they do now, which is great.
Yeah.
They get 50-50, and that's good. Dads are more engaged. But this was back in the day where he got special treatment.
Because probably mothers would have gotten custody of the children.
100%.
In that
100%.
Day and age.
100%. So we ended up going back and forth, but it was not a healthy situation. And then my mother, to survive, she worked at the K.I. Sawyer. And she was in the secret operations as an operator.
Wow.
So cool.
Oh, yeah. And for those who don't know, K.I. Sawyer was an Air Force base.
Thank you. It was.
And so she was a civilian working on base.
On base.
Which was probably a pretty big deal for her to even get that job.
Huge. Yes, huge. And that ended up bringing her to Seattle, Washington for a time. So we were separated during that time. But then I was a preteen. She was just trying to, and she brought my little sister with her.
Wow.
So we had all this fragmented childhood. But as children that want a lot of attention, I engaged in everything I could. I was in gymnastics. I competed on the trampoline. I was the lead in the school musicals.
Mm-hmm.
I was a cheerleader. And so all of those things just helped me to create my own identity.
Mm-hmm. And you probably appreciated the feedback, maybe even that you got from other adults, like Mrs. Sullivan, your music teacher, who called you out on your amazing voice and said, Faye, lead the class. So I think that does do something. I think sometimes children of divorce or not divorce, we figure out how to navigate to get what we need. Is that attention? Is it recognition? Is it to feel special? And you just so happen to be so talented, you could do all these things.
And that's the perfect lesson for our listeners, is how important being a mentor to anyone, doesn't have to be a young person, but especially young people, can be. And you're right, Stephanie, I had special adults in my life that filled that role and did give me that support and encouragement. And that's huge. And yeah, that's it. People do it.
So did your dad always stay married to this wicked stepmother?
He did.
I mean, I hate to say that, but
no, it's okay because she's gone.
Okay.
And that's why I was like, no, it's okay. Mm-hmm. He did. And my sister and I, it's almost like I'm making this up, but I'm not. My sister, and she'll vet this story. My sister and I, we literally slept in the basement. We were the odd man out because we were not her children. And my father was gone a lot. And he let her dictate the environment. And so in 3 homes, we were in the basement. And I'm talking not a finished basement, not a nice rec room kind of thing. And we literally, I remember a story. We took fingernail polish one time. We had a bottle of it and put it on the cement floor down in the basement during the winter and lit it. And it had this little flame for...
Because you were so cold?
Yeah. I know. It sounds like I'm making it up. We survived. Even in the wintertime, we would be out on the front porch looking in through the window. This should be a movie or a scene. Looking through the window, Ed Sullivan on the TV, and their new nuclear family all gathered on the floor watching, and us knocking on the window. Can we come in yet?
Oh,
can we come in yet? No. And
why would they have you staying outside?
Because we were us. We were an infringement. We were, I can't say exactly, but we.
Wow.
Yeah. So we actually survived that kind of
abuse.
Thank you for saying what it was. Yeah.
Probably what got you through, besides the other people in the community, is your sister. You having at least that one other human that was on your side, that you felt like you guys maybe were like a team, like you're going to get through this together.
And you know what's interesting is you would think, and my sister Diane is the light of my life now. However, back in that time, we were she's a couple years older, and she was doing her thing, and I was doing my thing. And even though we slept in the same bed, and she would make me sing her to sleep at night, which is really kind of special. I know.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that sweet?
That's beautiful.
Anyway, she ended up going and living with someone else. I ran away. My mother had come back from Seattle, and I tried to live with her. And so we were going on our own. And then it wasn't long after that I graduated high school and off to California.
So I'm going to just say that the pump was primed for you to get out of here, to get out of Marquette, to get out of UP, to get out of these really tumultuous living situations. And how did that happen? How did you get to California?
Yeah. And my goodness, first person to go to college in my family. And that's where I was going. So fortunately, there was a singing group that was traveling through the United States on tour. And before they got to each town, they would ask the local high school to select 2 people to come and audition.
Wow.
I
For
know.
the singing group.
For the singing group.
Oh my gosh.
So out of 56 cities, 18 of us were selected, and I was one. Oh my gosh,
Shay.
it's right. Oh my goodness.
Like what an honor. That
Oh.
just shows how spectacularly talented you are.
Thank you. Anyways, got a scholarship to Chapman University with that to perform with the group called the Young Americans. And the Young Americans were really strong and popular at that time, doing television shows, traveling the world, working with celebrities and big celebrities. So I was so fortunate to work with so many iconic celebrities, and every once in a while I'll name drop, but
Can you name drop just a few?
Oh,
Maybe just one or two?
no, I'd be happy. Actually, I'd be happy
okay.
to. I'd be happy. So, how many people can say that they did a Christmas special with Bing Crosby, his family, and Fred Astaire?
Oh my gosh.
How many people can say that they sang on a stage in Las Vegas sitting next to Sammy Davis Jr., the Candyman, Anne Margaret, Gene Kelly? Goodness sakes, sometimes I can't remember them all.
Faye,
but
that's like beyond.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, that was me.
I did that.
I did that.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, Steph, I'm so lucky right now that even though we started this interview with, the tragedy of youth, I am so blessed. I am so lucky that I can, I'm getting a little emotional, that I can say to you, I could die tomorrow, and I feel like I have already lived 7 lifetimes or more. Now, I've had to recreate my life, some of those 7, but they're good.
Yeah.
And look at me, I'm still here, and I'm still here. It brings us to another tragic subject.
Okay.
Do you remember what it is?
Is it your divorce?
No, those are ugly. I've been a divorced people. I'm on my 3rd marriage, which I'm not ashamed.
Yeah.
Not even.
And let me go back to that. So I really think that the people who've had some of the most horribly tragic or tumultuous upbringings become the most content, happy, resilient adults. I don't know what that is. My husband, who's a psychologist, could probably say why that is. You think about Oprah Winfrey and her roots. And there's this new author that I really love, Jamie Kern Lima, who has a book out called Worthy, raised by an alcoholic.
Love
and
that title.
Was adopted and very tumultuous. So I just think sometimes, and Wayne Dyer, who I
love.
He
the 4 agreements part of, and the whole,
Yeah, and he used to say that he was given the gift of, let's just say, a horrible childhood to be able to teach people how to survive in this life.
Nice.
So how beautiful that you hold no resentment.
I don't.
That you've really healed, that you've moved on, and that you can actually say like that your life has been like a blessing and a gift.
Yeah. And everything is not all serendipitous. At times, like if I'm experiencing pain, or if there's something sad going on with one of my children, or something that's so close to us, close to our heart, there is a level of sadness that is still in my body that will trigger a little bit. And it is enormous, but I can recognize it now. And I can say, okay, you're okay. You're okay. So I've learned that too. Counseling and self-help and learning about ourselves is, why do we wait so long to learn about ourselves? Everything from nutrition to mental health.
And I think you talking about this childhood, this young Americans, and you performing, I think that there is a striving in our young, like 20s or late teens, early 20s, searching, striving. And I think that's like what maturity brings is that contemplation, right? I think there's an unfortunate, some people might strive for their whole life before they ever feel fulfilled or before they ever feel like they've reached like a level of success that they were happy with.
And they're generally the unhappy.
Absolutely.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you wonder what's holding them back. And a lot of times I think it is just fear. And some people get to this place where it would be too hard to break out of. That's the story they've made for themselves. And they just become, I don't want to say complacent, but it's a safe place.
Absolutely.
Start digging. It's not going to be safe for a while.
Yeah.
To a much better place.
Exactly.
Not comfortable.
It doesn't feel good. Going to therapy is hard, difficult to face those demons.
You have to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And you have to trust who you're being vulnerable with. And
Absolutely.
that's a big, now I think this is really wonderful. There's online opportunities for therapy because we don't always have enough therapists available, right? Just like we don't have
Yeah.
enough doctors and specialists in our, and that's a whole
Yes.
nother discussion.
Yes.
But I love that you can go online and try to find a fit and speak with someone. And I think that's important to know.
And I think it's easier for people than putting their clothes on, going to the office,
Right.
feeling that anxiety about who am I meeting. Yeah, they can be in their living room, pull up their laptop,
Yeah.
and start to dig in and get help.
During the pandemic, the Zoom culture became so popular and so helpful that it has really continued. And if there was anything good that came out of it, that it would be that. I think using that, we condemn social media so much, but that's not social media. It's using that to facilitate talking to people when normally you might not be able to.
Yeah,
So
a connection,
a connection. Yeah.
a visual connection.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long were you in the Young Americans?
You know, what's funny about it is you're only young for so long, so you get booted out.
Okay.
So I think we took people in from as young as 15, which was unusual. We didn't have very many, to 18.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
There's an age limit.
There's an age limit. You can still support them, and I'm still connected with them, and friendships that have lasted a lifetime. However, that was just a launching for me.
Yes, for your career.
And so I started performing in Newport Beach at a place called Baxter Street. And it was 3 guys, 3 girls, and it was a dinner theater.
Ooh.
And it was very exclusive and
Oh,
very
I can envision it.
Can't you though?
Yeah.
You know, this really intimate setting and this stage that was right, I want to say in your face, your tape, like you and I sitting close together right now, I could be singing right at you.
Wow.
And it was very popular. And it was while I was performing there that someone from Knott's Berry Farm was having dinner and asked me afterwards if I would come and audition for Knott's Berry Farm, which is an amusement park, which was before Disneyland. And Walt Disney became good friends with Walter Knott, and they worked together, collaborated a little bit, and then Walt Disney launched. Isn't that interesting?
Oh my gosh.
So Knott's Berry Farm is like one of the first original amusement parks. Yeah.
Wow.
So I became their leading lady at Knott's Berry Farm, and I was there for 16 years.
Unbelievable.
Every year, somebody auditioning for my...
To bump you out.
No, and it was great because different characters, primarily a saloon lady, so I the Calico Rose, and I had the can dancers, and then, of course, Annie Oakley, where I did gun and bullwhip and lariats and high falls, and that started all of that.
So stunting, dancing, singing.
Yes, comedy.
Oh,
which is my favorite.
Wow. That must have been like physically intense and time intensive.
You know, it's so intense that I developed vocal nodules.
Oh my goodness.
So back in the day, Knott's Berry Farm was not a union house for one thing, but the shows like at an amusement park, they're usually little vignettes. So they'll be like 20 minutes long. And so there's multiples.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, so it would not be unusual for me to do 8 saloon shows.
Oh.
And then mixed into that, run over to the Roaring Twenties and do a Roaring 20 show. So now we're up to 10, right? 2 more. And then maybe over to the Berry Sisters, or maybe over to the stunt show where you would be in part of that as the girl in the stunt show. And so it was during that time that I, as an untrained vocalist, by the way, did not realize that I was going to blow my vocal cords out, which I did.
Wow.
That was tragic. And I used to have a 5-octave range. I was just blessed. I could read music, sight read music, and so that's part of the reason why I didn't go down that of being trained or into opera or anything. But so Knott's Berry Farm took care of me, though, and I went to Dr. Hans Victor von Liden.
Oh.
Who was
From
also...
Germany? No.
Oh, I know, right?
From...
Yeah. Oh, and if I could paint you a picture of him, it's like the typical madman scientist, and who was also Michael Jackson's laryncologist.
Wow.
And other celebrities. So the celebrities would go in the morning, and then a slower level would go in the afternoon. But if the schedule was wonky, or right before surgery or something, I would go in the morning.
And you would bump into these other celebrities?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And true story, the bathroom, you had to have a key. And I went to the bathroom and we scared, you know how like you open the door and you scare each other with somebody? It was Anne Margaret.
Oh my gosh.
We laughed so hard.
Oh.
And it was so funny because I had actually performed with her about 5 years prior. I didn't anticipate she would remember me, but she certainly remembered the performance.
She did.
Yes, and that was so cool.
Special.
And Margrock. But fortunately, even though I lost my range, I had vocal nodule surgery and I had to be silent for, gosh, I think it was 60 days while it was healing.
So with no union, and were you getting paid?
Disability.
Oh, you did.
And this was before children, too. So was I married? Yeah, before I'm married. I was okay.
Did they pay you fairly well? This sounds like a rigorous schedule, and you're like the face of Knott's Berry Farm.
I was one of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how was the pay?
I was fine. I had a roommate. We had a fun little apartment. My mom had given me her car. I don't remember I wasn't living high on but I don't remember needing anything.
You were comfortable. Yeah. Nice.
Having fun and dating stuntmen and other cool people. A lot of dating, and it was fun.
Oh,
it was fun.
It sounds like a super fun time.
It was super fun. So then life continued on.
You had to have 60 days of silence. And did they keep your job for you?
They did.
Good.
I know.
Okay.
I was a little worried about that.
Well, absolutely.
But no one was able to fill my...
Your
variety. They liked, yeah. Well, I was variety, right?
Really?
Because,
to be able to jump from one vignette to another, to be the stunt woman, to be the comedian.
Yes.
And to have, so you lost one octave?
I did. I did. It took a while to reach upper vocals, but as more time went by, it continued to get better, but I had to be really careful. But a lot of the shows, we were able to drop just to another key.
Yeah.
And that was good.
Technology, right? Change the key, change the this.
Well, it wasn't even technology because everything was live. Live musicians, live. And I played the washboard. I sang bluegrass and newgrass. I sang big show tunes. I sang Roaring 20 Things.
Is there a favorite song that you'd want to sing like one or two lines from?
Gosh, are you kidding me? I can perform at the drop of a hat. Here's something my mother used to sing. I haven't. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy a paper doll that I can call my own, a doll that other fellas cannot steal. And when that flirty, flirty guy with his flirty, flirty eye will have to find a dolly of his own. And so that's like an old time kind of show tune, right?
Beautiful.
But
yes.
then I can go to Linda Ronstadt when I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie, all the day and night time. When she started doing the standards, and I loved that. And then, of course, just big show tunes, but we don't need to blow the mic off.
You're being very careful with the mic, right? You're just nice and soft.
Well, and I don't know what's going to come out. It's 9:30, 9:45 in the morning.
Yes.
But, and people have to pay for it if I keep doing more.
Oh,
so.
right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yes. There would be a cost to listen to this.
Something. I'm eyeing that jar of magnesium over there. So, I'll just 5-finger that on the way out.
Grab a few things on the way out.
Which is funny, too, because it's difficult for me not to just we've covered a lot of serious areas. Yes. However, I have a tendency to just be funny.
Yeah.
As you know me. But I love that levity about me. Mm-hmm. It just changes the vibe.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably how you've survived, right?
Absolutely.
You can't stay in that depth. You can't stay in that darkness. No. You can't stay in that path.
On the edge of the abyss, and you don't want to fall down there.
Yeah.
And the good thing is recognizing when you're on the edge. As a person that has experienced depression, that's when we talked earlier about the tragedy. Divorce is nothing compared to losing family members to suicide.
Yeah.
And so I lost my brother and my father. And I have such a soft space for anyone that's our suicide survivors, that I have participated in education in that, and I participated in a video that is actually shown in the schools.
Wow.
Just helping make that more, not mainstream, but we have to educate our children that it's a final thing that we don't need to go to. And we know that the numbers are not good.
Yeah, they're not. Would you have called your brother and or your father depressed? Did they suffer with depression? Did they deal with depression? Did they use any substances?
That is such a good question. It helps us to know that you cannot anticipate someone is going to take their life.
Yeah.
My brother, I never, ever would have thought. Never. My sister still has a hard time, like, why? I have come to a little place saying, well, it was his decision, so I can't be mad at him. But, oh, the loss. So, no, my brother he had some health issues, that he was tired. And he said he was going to be with Mom.
Wow.
So he left us a message that he was going to go be with Mom. Please come and get my dog. He said the dog by name. And he left that for my sister and I, a text message. And that was that. My father, same thing though. Arthritis, cervical problems, pain. He went from being a very vibrant man to someone with pain. So I think that's probably a fair number of people that they just don't want to do it anymore. They just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm on a journey to be pain-free.
Yes.
Because I do have that. And one of my sweet daughters said, because there's two people in my life, in her life too, our family, that have committed suicide. When that happened with my brother, the second person, one of my daughters said, oh, Mom, you won't do that, will you? And a natural thing to say, but also a wake-up call of like, I don't think I will.
Yeah.
So I have that awareness.
And I mean, I talked to people, most of my patients come in pain. And when that pain is prolonged, I'm cautiously aware that chiropractic isn't always the only answer. I have great relationships with some neurosurgeons in this community and with some sports medicine doctors. But I say that pain prolonged, it wears on you. It pulls on you. It disrupts not only your daily living, what you can do to keep yourself healthy and active, and then it starts to eat away emotionally.
Emotionally and mentally.
Yes. Because
Because you enter into some confusion too. You're trying pain meds, you're trying this, you're trying that, and then the exhaustion.
yes.
And you're just like, F it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I could give anybody one sentence about pain, is that don't lose hope. There's probably something else that you haven't tried, and not to be Pollyanna about this, but you know that silly phrase, when you reach the end of the rope, tie a knot in it. Like, I just want to be sometimes even a facilitator for people, right? If my treatment as a chiropractor didn't take care of it, let's be on this journey together and figure out what's the next step.
It takes a certain personality to convey that. And fortunately, you have that. That's why I've been coming to you for as long as I have, because you can't just phone it in. And you have to have a caregiver on your team that recognizes and sees maybe what level this person is at. And as I'm heading into surgery, and we have done everything we can.
Yes.
But I'm at that point where I have to go down that road, and you will continue to care for me.
Yes, I will.
But you and I both know I can't believe that I have tried everything. And so we're just going to hope for the best that this will help.
Well, and there are limitations of matter. And then there's also the people who go to surgery first. Like, I have
You're right.
I have so many first cousins. I have 30 first cousins and big family. And I saw one of my cousins at a family reunion with a fresh surgical scar on his neck. And I said, what in the world happened? And he said, my arm was numb and I was in surgery the next day.
What?
So I want to say that as an encouragement to you, that you have done your due diligence. You've been so proactive. You've been so tenacious to try to take care of this. And I know you have this, let's just say, apprehension, worry. You don't really want to do the surgery, and with your brother and your dad and that ramification, but things can be different.
Yes.
And I'm believing and putting it out there that things will be different.
Yes. And I just have to continue to work on that. And that's my job. I kind of wonder sometimes, do we still have our listeners? And I want to also just compliment you on the podcasts.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you're welcome. And I was talking to a friend about podcasts the other day, and just the fact that talk radio, it's a form of talk radio.
Yeah.
That has been lost along the way because we're so video oriented, right? Entertainment, like
and 10-second TikTok.
Yes.
No one is going to have their attention long. Yeah.
And so maybe we have a few people that hung in there with us during this conversation that hopefully have gotten not just some enjoyment, but some insight into their own life, because I think that's your intent.
It is my intent.
Yeah.
Someone asked me, why are you doing this? And there have been a few inspirational patients. You're one of them. As a healthcare provider, I am completely forbidden for sharing any information. I can't, if you're on stage, I can't wave to you. Technically, I'm not supposed to acknowledge that I know you in any way. That's the HIPAA, the health privacy.
Yeah.
So there have been many people where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such like a moving story, or this is so inspirational, or really, can you believe, Faye, who was just in a show, you just ended it Sunday.
I did.
And you were chosen one of 18 people when you were in high school, launched your career, you went to California. Do people at the grocery store know that? I think that's spectacular and amazing. And yeah, I just want to give people
we love people. We love people. And I don't know if you can tell, Stephanie, you're bringing me to tears because older people, younger people forget older people are somebody that has such a story.
Yes.
And I just finished the musical, like you said, with a cast of primarily younger people. They are having a good time, and they've got their own kind of language and verbiage, and they're just having so much fun. And there's the older person just on the fringe a little bit. And yet, a couple of them were intrigued by some of the things that I had to offer. And I think it's another reminder of, I don't remember how this goes, Steph, but it's insofar as people in your life, you are recommended to have an old person, a young person, and a friend. And then you'd be really rich because, you've got all of that. You
have the older person to learn from, to have that life experience, that wisdom. The younger person to maybe push you physically.
To introduce you to their life. Because there are all these funny phrases that they're using, and you're just, I wonder what that means.
Oh, I'm Googling that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Abbreviations that my kids use in a text. I'm like, what is...
And one of my favorite people, his name is Hunter, and he'll be like, slay. Slay. And then it'll be like, love. Love. And I mean, just fun. So, we love people, and I think you and I recognize that in each other. Yeah. And that's what brought us to this time together.
I'm so grateful that you were so vulnerable with me and our listeners and shared your story. And I do think that it's going to be inspirational for a lot of people listening.
Oh, good. Wish all of you listening, just wish you the best. Wish you well. Hang in there with whatever. One more day.
And what I'll do at the end of this podcast is I'll put some links for some suicide resources.
Good, thank you.
Is there anything else that you would want to direct people to? Do you want them to find you on social media? Do you want them to wave at you in the grocery store? Is there anything that you want to say, or would you even feel comfortable if anyone reached out to you?
Well, certainly anybody is welcome to reach out to me. Insofar as a message, also community. Stay engaged with your community, volunteer with your community. Yeah. And especially older, we have a tendency to isolate. So if you're an older person right now and you're just getting lonely and you might be isolating, find something. There's so much out there. Oh my goodness.
Such great advice.
Right? Yeah. Okay, good. So anyway, thanks. I'm gonna go home and make myself a big breakfast and and then have a good rest of the day, and I hope you will too.
Thank you, Faye.
Thanks
for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, like, or subscribe? You can find me on social media at wautierwellness.com, Dr. Stephanie Wautier on Instagram, or Wautier Wellness Chiropractic and Massage on Facebook. And I'm so curious where your next conversation will take you.